Please open the door. It's what you're thinking. It's not a pin. Please. This is not a pin. This is serious. This door. I need to get out. Okay, seriously, everyone. Someone. I need one person to get out of their seat. Thank you. Thank you. Holy shit! That's a way to start a show, huh? Get locked in the dressing room? Like, I'm in there, I'm warming up, I'm all ready to come out. I hear the music start. Before, I'm ready to come out and blow your minds. And the door's locked. That is a Stetson'd. That is a bona fide Stetson'd. And that kind of shit, as you'll hear, happens to me all the time. It always has. Ever since I was a little kid, ever since before I was born, I've been this, redheaded stepchild of destiny. Where, no matter what happens, no matter, how close I am to making something happen just perfectly, something happens and screws it all up. Stetson'd. To better explain this phenomenon, this is the famous debate held between my friends, Michael Cherkezian, Daniel McCabe, and Justin Barad, 10 days after the first Stetson'd. Murphy's Law. Whatever could possibly go wrong, will go wrong. I think there's something we're all missing here. A key factor in the definition of a Stetson. It's the negative results based on the positive expectations. For example, if you're walking down the street and a bird shits on your head, that's not a Stetson. That's just bad luck. But if you're walking down the street on the way to a best hair contest and a bird shits on your head, that is a Stetson. Because you have to look at the negative results based on the positive expectations. It gives the entire notion of a Stetson to a whole other philosophical debate. Do you blame the universe, the cruel prankster of a god, for summoning these events? Or do you blame the person getting Stetson for either A, making a bad choice, or B, not following through on a good one? One man's tragedy is another man's comedy. I think we're all approaching the definition of a Stetsoning. We're missing one very key element. Take McCabe's example. You walk down the street and a bird poops on your head. It's bad luck. If you're walking down the street on the way to a best hair contest, that's bad luck and coincidental. But you need to get to a whole other level in order to make it a full-blown Stetson. For example, say Stetson was hired to contract a house. Bear with me. Say Stetson was hired to contract a house. And he decides to take one day off to participate in the best hair contest. So he spends all morning getting his hair ready. He walks out of his house with an umbrella to protect himself from any potential Stetsons. He even takes an alternate route to avoid any streets that may possibly have pigeons. Then he takes that entirely different route, which ends up going past the house that he's supposed to be contracting. This is Stetson, of course. So he's walking past this house, and the guy he hired to take his place for that one day sees him, goes to say hello, knocks the can of paint off of his ladder, just as the gust of wind blows the umbrella out of Stetson's hands. Can of paint falls on his head. Stetson. I think there's a real direct connection between the amount of effort you put towards avoiding said disaster, and then the disaster just comes back to bite you in the ass that much harder with that much more magnitude for how much you tried to avoid it. Thank you, Michael and Pam. The definition of a Stetsoning is good intentions plus Murphy's Law plus misdirected preparation plus bad luck plus good intentions all over a thick bed of irony. That is a Stetson. You see, Stetsonings really started popping off in high school when I would just try to help out a friend, and it would end up in me either getting a speeding ticket, a pop tire, unexplainable traffic at 11:30 p.m., and culminate inevitably in my father grounding me. Bart, I don't understand. What are you doing on Route 4 at 11:30? Well, Dad, you see, I had to drive Paul to the hospital because he got banged in the head with a Coke bottle. And an 18-wheeler was toppled over on the highway, causing massive traffic. If there hadn't been any traffic, it would have been fine. I would have been home before curfew. What? Hospital? This is ludicrous. This whole story is absolutely ludicrous, and it's been happening way too often. Frankly, you're grounded, mister. Dad, grounded. Dad, grounded. Dad, grounded. You are grounded, mister, and that is that. And furthermore, this Tibetan monk can stay here no longer. But he's in hiding. Grounded. Yeesh, yeesh, grounded. Feel grounded. Grounded. My dad also did the voice of Roger Rabbit, by the way. It wasn't until after I moved out of my parents' house that Stetson'd just became more embarrassing, almost unexplainable. Like the paramount example is when I was at my girlfriend's beach house in Cape Cod. And I'm with her and her family at their beautiful beach house in Cape Cod, and I'm just reading the definitions of Stetson'd that you heard just a moment ago. And I'm reading McCabe's final thoughts on the subject. And I'm like, they're perfect. I don't have to read the whole thing. Honey, come over here. This is perfect. A real Stetson'd is when you're walking down the street on the way to a best hair contest and a bird shits on your head. Because it's the negative results based on the positive expectations. A true Stetson'd is when you almost break up with your girlfriend one week and then find out that you're at her parents' beach house in Cape Cod. Not only did she read it, but she watched me read it as if it was the perfect definition of a Stetson'd. I was living out the very definition of a Stetson'd as I was reading the very definition of a Stetson'd. It was like a Stetson'd inside another Stetson'd. It was like a Stetson inception. It was a Stetsception. And then as she's storming out of the room, I noticed that her father had been sitting on the couch behind us the whole time and just shaking his head. Lesson to avoid Stetson'ds. Always read your emails to yourself before you shoot.